Hi Learn 11 class. Welcome to the fourth video lecture in the time management series. This lecture is going to focus on procrastination, some of the reasons why we procrastinate, and also some of the tools that we can use to help us when we're in procrastination mode. For this lecture, you will just need to take notes, and you can take notes directly on the slides if that's helpful for you. So I'm going to begin now. We're going to go through slides 14 through 20, I believe, here. And the last video, the fifth video that's coming next, will focus on the last few slides of this lecture. So you may have watched the Ellen DeGeneres clip from her stand-up show talking about how she procrastinates when the story of her procrastinating when she had to write jokes when she was about to go on tour or was writing for a tour. And rather than sitting down and writing, she found all kinds of things to do, like, cleaning, petting. I think she said she pet her cat or her dog for an hour, talking to a friend on the phone, complaining, all kinds of things. And she has a really funny, light way of looking at something that is very true, that we all experience. It's a universal feeling of every now and again, putting things off, some of us more than others. So this lecture is going to focus on that C fever. It's what your book calls the C fever. We have a priority that needs to get done from the A column. And instead, we're focusing on the C column because we know that there's a quick turnover and we can finish something really fast and cross it off of our list. When the A is a priority, that this item is something that we have to really get to. So let's begin here. This slide just has the definition of procrastination. Sorry, at the time of making this video, my allergies are really, really terrible. So I keep trying to drink water to help my throat. All right. So when we stop and ask ourselves why we procrastinate, I think there are some really deep-rooted reasons for procrastination. And when we say, I didn't do my work, I procrastinated because I'm lazy, I tend to tell students that's a lazy definition of procrastination. Or calling yourself lazy is just a lazy way of talking about what's really going on. Because I think there is much more under the surface when we procrastinate than sometimes we're willing to investigate, or we even know, maybe we're not aware of it. So some of those things are that when we find that we have something that needs to get done, but we feel that we might not be prepared or have the skills to approach the project or whatever it is that we're working on, we're looking at ourselves as small and looking at the project as really big. And so it can be hard to want to climb that mountain. Again, that's maybe a feeling of anxiety, not wanting to get started, maybe feeling overwhelmed, maybe insecurity, feeling fear. We may also feel a lack of interest in whatever subject or whatever thing that we are needing to complete. And as we've talked about the responsibility of, it's our responsibility as students or of learners to find ways to engage ourselves into material versus just making the excuse that I'm not interested. I'm not saying it's easy to find interest in things that we're not interested in, but it does take some creativity and slowing down to figure out how we can engage ourselves. Also, some students may tend to have, and I can definitely say that I feel a little bit on this side of the scale, of feeling like if it's not perfect, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to start. So having a sense of everything needs to be perfect and everything needs to be in its place, and then we feel overwhelmed and anxious to even begin somewhere. There may be a fear of failure, of not doing, meeting our own expectations. And this is where the inner critic comes in and really destroys our self-esteem or our self-worth. And by the way, the inner critic is just us. It's our minds. So it's not reality, and it's really important that we engage with the inner critic in a way that brings us back to the present moment, back to reality, so that we can just start somewhere. A good example of this is like if you're writing a term paper and it's research and it's just 10 pages. That's a lot of pages. How am I going to get started? And so we put it off and we put it off and we put it off. And putting it off is really causing more anxiety, not less. Okay, it's not for temporarily, I don't have to deal with it. But as the deadline gets closer and closer, it's starting to really cause a lot of anxiety. So what we may want to do is like break up our essay into smaller pieces just so we can start somewhere. When I left grad school, I was so used to focusing and hyper-focusing on details that may not even have needed as much time as I spent, but I had such a huge fear and anxiety about not producing papers or good work that were going to earn me straight A's. So I tended to focus for way too long on a few sentences rather than just taking a few points or pointers or comments from my instructors and learning from that. Another part of this fear of failure and perfectionism is that it may be difficult to take criticism because the criticism is we're taking it way too personally versus just seeing it as a way of learning, and that somebody is actually offering a gift for us to grow from. Another aspect or possibility for procrastinating is this sense of rebellion. Just resistance to wanting to get our work done, wanting to take responsibility and do what we need to get done. That's something that you have to have a conversation with yourself about. But I know at times when I've felt like that, it's really taken a lot to slow down. I have to slow my pace down and really get in touch with the fact that getting these projects done or these tasks done is to my benefit. It's to my benefit. No one else is distracting me or getting in my way, that I'm blocking my own way. And why would I do that? So asking that question kind of can take you on a little bit of an investigation to find out what's really going on inside so that you can bring some reality to it, that you are here in college, you are enrolled in courses. For right now, you're enrolled in an online course, and that takes a lot of courage. We don't see it that way all the time, but it really does. You're involved in all kinds of new experiences and learning new information. So cutting yourself some slack and remembering that you're only getting in your own way when you put things off and avoid. And to really care about your future and really care about yourself, it takes slowing down and just starting somewhere. Somewhere is better than nowhere. So please, I would like you to do like a mini reflection here, maybe 5 minutes, to investigate for yourself when the last time was that you procrastinated, and to sort of go on that little journey to figure out what could have been at the root of the procrastination. So ask yourself the following questions on the slide, and you can pause the video and come back when you're ready. Okay, hopefully you finished your procrastination reflection and you know a little bit more about yourself and some of the reasons why you procrastinate. Now, it's true that each time we procrastinate, there may be a different reason, but I'm more apt to think that there's maybe one or two for each of us, and they may be different between all of us, but maybe those one or two reasons are the main reasons that cause me to block my own way and to put off what I need to finish, what I need to complete. So the more you do this, the more you start to feel procrastination. And as it rises, just kind of go on that inquiry and ask yourself what could be at its root, so that when you are familiar with one or two of the main reasons, you know exactly what tool will work best for you. So we're going to move now into some of the tools that you can use to help end procrastination. Your book gives you some really great tools, and I'm just kind of taking the chapters from the Becoming a Master Student book and blending them in with my own lecture. So if I don't say things that are completely word for word from the book, you'll hear some of the same ideas. Yeah, sorry, I'm filming. It's okay. Sorry, they're leaving the center right now, so they were asking me if I wanted to go. So the building is literally going to sleep, but I will leave after I finish this lecture. So let's move through this. Okay, so the first step to, or the first tool to end procrastination is to really just ask for help. You can use your resources on campus and your resources at home. Some of those resources here on campus are using a tutor, asking tutors, asking your instructor, asking classmates for help. At home, you may have a roommate, you may have a partner or a family member who can help you as well. Asking for help is just the first basic step to ending procrastination. Maybe even just having a conversation about how you're feeling and how you know, some of the inquiry that you would do internally, maybe just having that externally with somebody else. Another tool is to, again, make it social by talking with somebody, but this is only for certain people who really like to study with others and find studying with others invigorating and energizing. And these kinds of students may need accountability from their study mates. Making plans, like a goal of how much you're going to study or how far you're going to get, and then having that other student kind of hold you accountable to that goal is a good way of ending procrastination for those kinds of students. I mentioned chunking and breaking up, an essay into small pieces, but you can do this with reading. You can do this with math problems. You can do this with just about anything that you're studying. When you're studying for a test, rather than cramming the night before, you break up your study. You study for, an hour and a half one day, 45 minutes the next day, an hour the next day, and you give yourself plenty of time to study, but you're almost reviewing as you're studying each time. So this is really great for reviewing for a test, because the more you're exposed to the material over and over and over again, the more likely that material is to settle in your memory so that it's useful to you later for a test. Sometimes when we cram, that information just leaves us very quickly. So chunking not only helps us to break a huge project up into smaller pieces so we can digest it so that we're not so intimidated by the project, but it also allows us to remember better smaller pieces versus, it's like trying to eat a whole pizza versus a slice. It's very difficult and overwhelming to try and do everything at once. I mentioned in the first lecture how when I was breaking up my time, my study time, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes break, 45 minutes on, 15-minute break. Each time that I was back on, each 45-minute study session that I was on, I would study something new. So I would so that I wasn't getting bored and just studying the same thing over and over again. I would study something different each sitting. That was helpful for me, maybe not for everybody. And then we can ask ourselves why it is that am I feeling pressure or feeling overwhelmed because of an outside pressure, or is it coming from within? Am I putting pressure on myself, or do I feel pressure from somebody else? Sometimes our family members and people who really mean well and love us can put pressure on us to succeed and do better and in a short amount of time, when that's not really helpful or supportive of how we learn or how much time we need to really understand and learn something. Another tool is to just start. Rather than listening to the chatter in the brain and engaging with it and having a conversation, coming up with a list of reasons why I can't get started, we just do something. We just get started. We can also go all the way back to our long-term and short-term goals and search for the rewards. What were the rewards that I saw in completing these goals? And getting in touch with the desire and the kind of joy of rewards. We can also create rewards for ourselves. That's another one. Every time we accomplish something small, we sit for another 45 minutes. Maybe we reward ourselves with a piece of candy, or I don't know, fruit, or sitting with your dog, or those little rewards are really, really important for helping us to want to stay motivated and stay, kind of avoid procrastination. We can also stop and question whether or not the major that we're choosing or the activities that we're doing, if we're really on the right path, if this is really what I want to do. Oftentimes the answer is yes, but we're disconnected from the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. Sometimes the answer is no, and I need to make a change, and that can be really scary. Sometimes we procrastinate because we are resisting or avoiding making changes. And we know the work that's involved and the sometimes fear involved with changes, but that just doing it and kind of taking that first step always feels a little bit better, because at least we are moving somewhere versus sort of resisting. We can also learn to accept that life is like this. Okay, I don't know if you've been to like Chuck E. Cheese, where they have those things called whack-a-moles. It's the moles that pop up and then you hit it down and then the other one comes up and you hit that one down, and they're always kind of coming up to the surface. And no matter how many times you try and hit them, there's another one that comes up when you're not looking. Sometimes life can feel like that. And no matter how hard we try to balance and we try to prepare, things are just popping up everywhere. And this is real. This is how life is. And so part of this lesson, part of what I want to talk to you about in this lecture, is learning to slow down, to slow way, way, way down, to use our time, to budget our time and plan our time so well that we plan for emergencies. We have room in our space, in our planners for when things pop up, when we can be flexible planners, so that we have time to rest, we have time to laugh. Sometimes, who wants to go to work when they haven't laughed in a long time? So, maybe just watching a half an hour show that allows you to feel lighter can bring you back to work again. And that's what I mean by the up and down, is when we're open to the ride and just going with the flow, and this is really difficult now, but it won't last forever. And then, again, we're really, really happy and proud and we're feeling secure. And then, oh no, here we are again. We're at this place. I feel really overwhelmed. The faster we learn how to do that, and I shouldn't say faster, but the more effectively we open to life and those waves and ask for help when we need it, and we use these tools, the more quickly we can learn to enjoy the moment, because part of time, again, is that we can't get this time back. So what we're doing today really creates what's coming in the future. And it's important that we are present for what we're building right now. So slowing down and accepting the ride where we're at, of course, asking for help and using our tools that we have here, but trying to make it perfect and thinking that life is just at some point going to flatline and be okay. It's just not a realistic view of life. There are times where we're uncomfortable and times where we're comfortable, and we just really want to open to all of it at once. One more tool that you can use to help end procrastination is to take a look at your environment and make your study environment a place you want to be in. You know, you can use sense drenching, which is, you know, using things that smell good, or cleaning your space up so that it feels really good. You can have visuals or pictures that motivate you. Maybe even a comfy, you know, blanket or something that helps you to focus because you're not so anxious. Anything like that is really good for bringing you back so that you don't dislike the place that you're trying to learn in. It also helps with INP, information processing, which is something that we talked about with the Lassie, because in an environment that we feel safe and comfortable or motivated in, inspired by, we're probably going to be more open to receiving information and storing it. We're more focused. All right, that concludes video 4 of the 5 lectures for time management. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you for video 5. Bye-bye. Thank you. See you soon.